This is going to be a review of the second chapter of the book Assessment is Essential by Susan K. Green and Robert L. Johnson. It is also going to be a review of chapter 1 in the book Assessing Students in Groups by David Johnson and Roger Johnson. First, I'm going to start talking about chapter 2 in Assessment is Essential. Chapter 2 pretty much covers learning goals. It is centered all around that. And one thing that is noted in the learning goals is that there's two different ways to figure out how your learning goal is going to work or not. You have your noun and your verb, and then you also have what you're going to do, how you're going to get, what the objective is, really, then what you're going to do, what the exercise is going to be to get the desired result or the outcome that you would like for the students to have in that specific factor. So working basically from beginning to end. The other option, which was brought up, is working from the end to the beginning. And as somebody who has had plenty of experience working from beginning to end and end to beginning, I can say that having those options and using both of them are going to be wonderful. But sometimes working from end to beginning can help you realize any certain mistakes that you have occurred throughout. My expertise in this, I guess you could say, would come from my play script analysis class that I've taken. One thing that you have to do is you have to read the play from beginning to end so that you can find a flow of what's going to happen, your actions and your reactions. Then, to make sure that your actions and your reactions are correct, and that something doesn't cause something else completely and entirely, they all have to be related, what you would do is you would read the play from the end, starting to go back up to the beginning. And going from the end to the beginning actually helps you make things more clear. And it lets you see if you have any mistakes, and the causes are just so much more crisp. So I really think that with the learning goals and how to make one for you, I would probably start from the end and work my way back to the beginning. But doing a beginning to the end is good, but I think if you're going to do the beginning to the end, I think you need to put in that extra little effort and go from the end to the beginning to see if it even makes sense. Because if it doesn't make sense starting from the end going back, then you've probably done something, well, not wrong, but something needs to be fixed in order to make it be more clear. Another good example of that would be if you're writing a paper or an essay. They tell you, read through the whole entire thing, and then once you get it done, start at the end and go sentence by sentence. And if it doesn't make sense that way, then something is a little off in the big picture. So I really think that the into the beginning would be great for the learning goals. The other thing that it touches on in that chapter is the standards. How there's national standards, then state standards, and then we've normally talked about national standards or state standards in other classes that I've been through, but they also had another set of standards come up that was the district standards. So there's a lot of things to look at to see what you want to teach, what you want to build your lesson off of from all these different standards. And it made mention in the book that with so many different learning goals and so many things out there that you have to learn, you have to figure out what you want to teach, and you have to basically feel secure in your decisions to what you're going to teach and what you're going to do. The other book, chapter 1, was basically all about assessing in groups and how when you work with a group or when you work in a group, it becomes, well, I wouldn't say better, but that's kind of what they're saying. I wouldn't really use the word better. I would use the word, I would say that you get more out of it. You can get a lot of stuff out by working by yourself if you're motivated while you're working by yourself. But sometimes if you work in a group, it can enhance the situation. And enhancing your learning is always a good thing. This worked, and there's proof of this when I took my Eco-Evo class, Ecology and Evolution. The instructor that I had for that class, we had it set up basically as just a discussion group class. And then throughout the discussion groups, the group as a whole discussed everything, but the lessons for that specific day, what we were going to cover that specific day, a couple people in the class teamed up and they gave a presentation over it. So not only did you have to know the topic and what was in that specific chapter of the book, but you also had to do other research to bring in other factors to make it more interesting. And then on top of that, you had to be able to know what was going on well enough in that chapter in order to answer any questions that anybody else had. So I I am all for students working in groups because I really do think that working in groups is probably one of the best things that you can do other than tutoring somebody and actually teaching the information, because if you're helping somebody out, then you get to retain it more, and essentially that's what we want as educators. We want our students to retain the information that we give them, and we want to have them have a wonderful life based off of that information that's given to them. So those are my thoughts and my key ideas that I sparked from Chapter 2 in Assessment is Essential, and from Chapter 1, Assessing Students in Groups.